An aviation accident is defined by the Convention on International Civil Aviation Annex 13 as an occurrence associated with the operation of an aircraft, which takes place from the time any person boards the aircraft with the intention of flight until all such persons have disembarked, and in which a person is fatally or seriously injured, b. the aircraft sustains significant damage or structural failure, or c. the aircraft goes missing or becomes completely inaccessible. 1. Annex 13 defines an aviation incident as an occurrence, other than an accident, associated with the operation of an aircraft that affects or could affect the safety of operation. A hull loss occurs if an aircraft is damaged beyond repair, lost, or becomes completely inaccessible. 2. The first fatal aviation accident was the crash of a Rosier balloon near Wimereux, France, on June 15, 1785, killing the balloon's inventor, Jean-François Pilote de Rosier, and the other occupant, Pierre Roman. 3. The first involving a powered aircraft was the crash of a Wright Model A aircraft at Fort Myer, Virginia, in the United States on September 17, 1908, injuring its co-inventor and pilot, Orville Wright, and killing the passenger, Signal Corps Lieutenant Thomas Selfridge. Major disasters. The first aircraft accident in which 200 or more people died occurred on March 3, 1974, when 346 died in the crash of Turkish Airlines Flight 981. As of April 2020, there have been 33 aviation incidents in which 200 or more people died. The top 10 countries with the highest number of fatal civil airliner accidents from 1945 to 2021 are the United States, Russia, Canada, Brazil, Colombia, UK, France, Indonesia, Mexico, and India. The UK is noted to have the highest number of air crashes in Europe, with a total of 110 air crashes within the time period, and Indonesia is the highest in Asia at 104, followed by India at 95. The largest loss of life on board a single aircraft is the 520 fatalities in the 1985 Japan Airlines Flight 123 accident. The largest loss of life in multiple aircraft in a single accident is the 583 fatalities in the two Boeing 747s that collided in the 1977 Tenerife airport disaster, while the largest loss of life overall in a collective incident is the 2,996 fatalities in the coordinated terrorist destruction of airplanes and occupied buildings in the 2001 September 11 attacks. The largest loss of life on board a single aircraft is the 520 fatalities in the 1985 Japan Airlines Flight 123 accident. The largest loss of life in multiple aircraft in a single accident is the 583 fatalities in the two Boeing 747s that collided in the 1977 Tenerife airport disaster, while the largest loss of life overall in a collective incident is the 2,996 fatalities in the coordinated terrorist destruction of airplanes and occupied buildings in the 2001 September 11 attacks. In addition, 184 were killed by the impact of American Airlines Flight 77, which crashed into the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia, causing severe damage and partial destruction to the building's west side. The crash of United Airlines Flight 93 into a field in Somerset County, Pennsylvania, which occurred as passengers attempted to retake control of the aircraft from the hijackers, killed all 40 passengers and crew aboard the aircraft. This brought the total number of casualties of the September 11 attacks to 2,996, including the 19 terrorist hijackers. As deliberate terrorist acts, the 9/11 crashes were not classified as accidents, but as mass killing. The events were treated by the United States and the member nations of NATO as an act of war and terrorism. The war on terror was subsequently launched by the United States and NATO in response to the attacks, leading to the death of al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden, who had ordered the 9/11 attacks. Tenerife disaster. 583, the Tenerife airport disaster, which occurred on March 27, 1977, remains the accident with the highest number of airliner passenger fatalities. 583 people died when a KLM Boeing 747 attempted to take off and collided with a taxiing Pan Am 747 at Los Rodeos Airport on the Canary island of Tenerife, Spain. All 234 passengers and 14 crew of the KLM aircraft died and 61 of the 396 passengers and crew of the Pan Am aircraft survived. Pilot error was the primary cause, as the KLM captain began his takeoff run in the mistaken belief he had obtained air traffic control clearance. 6-7 Other contributing factors were a terrorist incident at Gran Canaria Airport that had caused many flights to be diverted to Los Rodeos, a small airport not well equipped to handle aircraft of such size, and dense fog. The KLM flight crew could not see the Pan Am aircraft on the runway until immediately before the collision. 8. The accident had a lasting influence on the industry, particularly in the area of communication. An increased emphasis was placed on using standardized phraseology in air traffic control, ATC, communication by both controllers and pilots alike. Cockpit resource management has also been incorporated into flight crew training. The captain is no longer considered infallible, and combined crew input is encouraged during aircraft operations. JAL Flight 123. 520, the crash of Japan Airlines Flight 123 on August 12, 1985, has the highest number of fatalities for any single aircraft accident. 520 people died on board a Boeing 747. The aircraft suffered an explosive decompression from an incorrectly repaired aft pressure bulkhead, which failed in mid-flight, destroying most of its vertical stabilizer and severing all of the hydraulic lines, making the 747 virtually uncontrollable. 11. Pilots were able to keep the plane flying for 32 minutes after the mechanical failure before crashing into a mountain. All 15 crew members and 505 of the 509 passengers on board died. 12. Japanese military personnel inaccurately assumed, during a helicopter flyover of the impact site, that there were no survivors. Rescue operations were delayed until the following morning. Medical providers involved in rescue and analysis operations determined that several passengers likely survived the impact and probably would have survived the incident had rescue operations not been delayed. 4 passengers survived the incident in its entirety, meaning that they were alive when discharged from the hospital. Other crashes with death tolls of 200 or higher. 349, on November 12, 1996, the Charkhi-Dadri Madeira collision took place between Saudia Flight 763 and Kazakhstan Airlines Flight 1907 over Charkhi-Dadri, India. The collision was mainly the result of the Kazakh pilot flying lower than the assigned clearance altitude. All 349 passengers and crew on board the 2 aircraft died. 13. It remains the world's deadliest Madeira collision. 14. The Ramesh Chandra Lahoti Commission, empowered to study the causes, recommended the creation of the semicircular rule, to prevent aircraft from flying in opposite directions at the same altitude. 15. The civil aviation authorities in India made it mandatory for all aircraft flying in and out of India to be equipped with a traffic collision avoidance system, TCAS, setting a worldwide precedent for mandatory use of TCAS. 346, on March 3, 1974, Turkish Airlines Flight 981, a McDonnell Douglas DC-10, crashed in a forest northeast of Paris, France. The London-bound plane crashed shortly after taking off from Orly Airport. All 346 people on board died. It was later determined that the cargo door detached, which caused an explosive decompression. This caused the floor just above to collapse. The collapsed floor severed the control cables, which left the pilots without control of the elevators, the rudder and number 2 engine. 16. The plane entered a steep dive and crashed. It was the deadliest plane crash of all time until the Tenerife disaster in 1977. 6. It is currently the deadliest single aircraft crash with no survivors.